Fumble, commonly defined as handling or managing something clumsily. Legion, one of the coolest characters BioWare ever created. Put those two words together and you get the Legion Fumble, an event that occurred circa 2009 that left many gamers disappointed and wondering what could have been. Today, from a screenwriting perspective, we analyze Legion's story, how BioWare presented it, and how it ended. And for one of the few times that I'll allow within the analysis series, considering how much was cut, we'll look at some of Legion's cut content as well to explore the ideas BioWare had, and attempt to theorize perhaps the true direction they'd intended for Legion's character. Welcome back, everyone. As we return to our Mass Effect analysis series, as of course, by the great divine power of democracy, you folks voted for Legion to receive an analysis. This analysis is one I'm particularly excited for, as for me, this character has some of the most untapped potential across this series, and I think today's analysis will prove just that. Without further ado, sit back, grab yourself a light snack. Nothing major, of course, but perhaps a half-gallon of pistachio ice cream and some room temperature water, because this one will be a long one. Like Mordin, Legion doesn't appear at all in Mass Effect 1, but unlike Mordin, with Legion being a Geth, he kind of is in the first game. In fact, he's like all over the game. This is the first unintentional, perhaps, writing setup by BioWare. You see, the Geth in the first game acted as basically just the cannon fodder, robots for us to destroy. They didn't talk, and we didn't get much explanation on them outside of Tali, who describes the creation of the Geth as machines that eventually developed cognitive and independent thinking. The Quarians freaked out, tried to destroy the Geth, failed, and then got kicked off of their planet. And now the galaxy has these isolationist machine race people living on the outer rims of space. It's a pretty cool backstory, and like I pointed out in my Tali video, especially in today's climate of 2026, AI going uncontrolled and ballistic is an issue that seems, well, pretty relevant today. Now, movies and TV shows have used this same subject matter before, of AI taking over the world like in Terminator, or exploring the questions of if machines are people in a film like I, Robot. To say the subject matter is lacking in examples of good storytelling would be wrong, so BioWare did have a challenge, make no mistake about it. Thankfully, the Geth v universe and Geth v Quarian plotline across the trilogy is handled pretty well. Like with Tali, I'd mention how she is a narrative tool, providing us that much needed tie to the Quarian race. She has her own story too, but she doubles as giving us an actual reason to care about the entire race of the Quarians. Well, Legion, and you'll see this a lot, is the mirror of Tali, as it is the pipeline for the Geth race. Now, unlike Tali, whose race we never went to a war with, Legion was facing a far larger uphill battle in winning the player character over. We first meet Legion in Mass Effect 2 as he becomes the very last squad mate we can actually recruit. As we all know, originally, BioWare intended for you to be able to recruit any companion at any time, and that would have of course included Legion. Instead, Legion was thrown into the corner like a kid who stole a cookie from the cookie jar, and you don't get to recruit him until nearly 86% of the game's main story is complete. Now, you can't hear what I wrote, but I literally put 3 dots, otherwise known as an ellipses, in my script right here at this moment. Okay, BioWare, show us what you ended up doing with Legion in the limited time that we had him. I should say it, I don't think it's a him. That might happen in this video, I apologize. We first see Legion stalking us as we are clearing a Derelict Reaper ship. Now, we're there because we need to collect a Reaper IFF so that we can use the relay to go to their base and blow up the collectors. If you look at certain points in the mission, you can actually see Legion watching you, which is pretty cool. Remember, at this point, we've never met a friendly Geth, so seeing this shadowy figure is a nice expectation being built of a possible boss or an enemy at the end of this mission. And some good visual storytelling here occurs when we see Shepard's head appear in a sniper scope. The expectation is that this Geth is about to shoot us, but of course, when it instead opts to protect us, and the subsequent reveal equipped with an orchestral piece of music, Our expectations are of course subverted and replaced with a lot of curiosity and mystery. Humans are inquisitive by nature, and despite us being introduced to this Geth so late, you can't help but wonder why this Geth not only spoke, but saved us. And the player might also be asking why this Geth is even here in the first place. This is a pretty chaotic thing to introduce into the plotline, but it works quite well. We then get to the drive core and run into this Geth once more, who is hacking into a console. It lowers the door for us before getting slapped across, I guess, the face? The action, of course, of it lowering the doors is another suggestion of it helping us and deepens that mystery here. Once we successfully destroy the drive core, we then collect the limp body of the Geth and hurl him into Normandy. Nice throw, Shep. Okay, since this is technically a character introduction, let's discuss for a moment how this setup was set up. On the surface, introducing a Geth as a possible ally is pretty hard to screw up. I mean, a lot of players in 2009 when they saw this were probably mind blown. It's just cool turning your enemy into an ally, and it's been done a lot as we mentioned. But BioWare did make this scene a little bit clunky in my eyes. Firstly, I think the party doesn't really acknowledge the fact of what they just witnessed. They kind of just say, "Hey, wasn't that a Geth?" And then your other companion will say, "Yeah, it talked." And that's kind of it. No questions of why the Geth is here, or a discussion possibly with Edie on AI fighting alongside humans, or why the Geth would want to help us. I feel part of the structuring of this reveal is off. You see, this scene occurs, and then you have a small section where you fight some husks before getting to the very next scene where Legion gets knocked out. I'm sure the player is wondering the entire time about this Geth, but considering things are chaos from the point you see Legion until you see him next, there isn't really that moment of calm deliberation. I feel like personally, these subtle hints earlier in the mission of him stalking us could have had a bit more and perhaps gotten some emphasis. For example, say that we are flying in, and as we're landing, we get this shot of something. We see perhaps the shadow of Legion or a rifle, but we hear mechanical moving, or maybe even the sound of the Geth. This combines both something we've spoken about before on the channel of a selective POV, meaning we the player saw this thing watching us land, but Shepard and company don't know it's there. This drives further tension and suspense in the mission. The other is something we actually haven't referenced before, but it's the idea that some subscribe to, where typically in a horror setting, the unseen is oftentimes the best way to build suspense and fear into the audience, because if they don't know what the monster or killer looks like, you actually let the audience imagine it instead. And typically, people think of things that would scare them most. They get into their own heads, so to speak. For example, PT, one of my favorite horror games of all time, and it's not even a game, displayed this exact technique masterfully. Sure, it's dark and scary and has a lot of disturbing noises, but for roughly 96% of the game, you're just walking through doors, and you hardly ever see Lisa. When you do see her, you're almost not expecting it, and that's because you've been conditioned. So when that jump scare does arrive, it hits a little bit harder. Now, in the case of Legion, giving him a little extra build at the start introduces us to his presence without revealing what he is. Yet. I don't know. Perhaps I'm already flying off the handle a bit and someone needs to reel Grandpa in. It's not a bad introduction. I just felt it was a little rushed, which seems to be the theme of Legion's entire story in this game. Let's move on. We bring Legion on board, and Cerberus Cheerleader and Short-Sighted Sam discuss what to do with it. The Cerberus Cheerleader thinks we should, well, give it to Cerberus. Makes sense. Short-Sighted Sam thinks we should hurl the thing out of the space lock. Also makes sense. Actually, makes a lot of sense given the fact he was on Eden Prime. Sorry, Short-Sighted Sam. Maybe you were also misunderstood by the community. Thankfully, SSS, and no, I will not break down that acronym, you can figure it out, decided to speak with the Geth first. And this is a really cool moment because, well, finally we get a chance to talk to the Geth. So, we head down to the holding area, throw up a shield, and reactivate the Geth. This scene is fantastic. In what is one of the few times in this series that you have a seemingly back and forth conversation, and yes, the irony that it's with a Geth is not lost on me, is just great. When I say a real-life conversation, I'm talking about Shepard not asking one line of a question and then having a 2-minute monologue given to him, and instead, him and, of course, Legion have these sort of back and forth exchanges with 1 to 2 word responses. Kind of like in real life. You also don't really get that much in any of the Mass Effect games, so the welcome conversation change is welcome. In this sort of feeling out process, we managed to establish quite a lot. Firstly, that the Geth we fought in the first game are their own sort of faction called the Heretics, who receive guidance and upgrades from the Reapers. In exchange, they fight alongside the Reapers. Then you have Geth, who want to decide their own future and believe in maintaining their sovereignty in decision making. Speaking of sovereign, its name is actually Zara. It's really cool that we learned this because Legion acts as sort of a translator for machines. We could never have known Sovereign's name given the language that inorganics communicate, but because Geth and Reapers are synthetic, they communicate differently, as Legion itself describes. In fact, a wonderful use of an analogy a little bit later on explains the very differences between organic and inorganic communication. We'll cover that, I promise. Legion also gets his name in this scene too, and a wonderful assist from Edie, another inorganic, was a great use of narrative real estate here. While the name Legion fits both as a moniker and, from the source of which it pulled, the Bible, makes a lot of sense, but it's also a little bit jarring since, of course, inorganics don't have religion. So already you're getting this very nice complex scene that uses layering on multiple levels. Considering how late this character was introduced, this first scene talking to Legion had a lot of legwork that it needed to do, especially establishing what Legion was. I think it would have been a bit of a letdown if Legion simply explained why he was on the ship. And maybe, like Tali in the first game, Legion ended up being an expositor of Geth culture. While it does expound a bit on the latter, Legion also challenges Shepard on the fundamental differences between organics and inorganics. It speaks as efficiently as possible, cites quotes we've heard from Sovereign as explanations for why the Geth split from the Heretics, does give us some information about Geth culture, but arguably, the most interesting bits which center around an ongoing conflict in the Geth space that we had no idea about. It is a lot to throw at the player, but all of it's pretty cool. Some of the reveals, like the Geth conflict, are new, and others, like revealing that not all Geth love the Reapers, is changing the very perception of the player's understanding of a rather big piece of lore. This is of course because in the first game, we just thought all Geth worked with the Reapers, and of course the context is very much appreciated and makes things a little bit more dramatic. This scene is jam-packed with things that we can build from, and that's important. Very important. Even Legion's visual design, not that this is specifically in the writing, but the N7 armor that it wears, and the giant hole in its chest, are all questions the player no doubt asks. Questions are good. It garners interest. As far as an actual first conversation, this is great. The handshake at the end, however, only slightly irks me. I'll tell you why. While all the intrigue and questions that arise are good, the issue I have with Legion here is that by presenting the handshake, we've become chill with it, as the kids say. To quote short-sighted Sam here, he fought on Eden Prime, as did Shepard, and both of them saw friends be killed by Geth. That trauma and possibly PTSD makes perfect sense why Jacob would be inclined to toss the thing overboard. That's a conflict that's kind of interesting. I think stripping any tension between Shepard and Legion here is a missed opportunity for a possible arc that could have occurred. Only slightly, of course, since, to be fair, Shepard doesn't really have any beef with any of his squad mates. But that's why I think it's still a missed opportunity. Legion's people for a long time were enemies for us, so maybe them becoming allies could have had its own arc. Maybe we could have gotten this handshake at the end of his loyalty mission, and prior to that, Shepard is willing to take Legion on since this is a suicide mission and any help is appreciated, but he doesn't maybe trust Legion quite yet. Not until his loyalty mission, of course, where he gets that first-hand experience into Geth culture and their point of view on their creation and the subsequent war that followed afterwards. I don't know, just a thought. Let's move on. Our next conversation is Legion introducing us to his loyalty mission. It first answers our question earlier on why he was on the Derelict Reaper ship. Legion went there to, as it puts it, preserve the Geth's future. It went there to understand Reaper code, because the Geth had found out a virus was being made that would turn all Geth to the heretic side and make them fight alongside the Reapers. And you know, for a bit of a cliche concept, what being the virus and all, Legion does a pretty great job explaining why this virus is different from a human one. Instead of 1.3332, the Geth would then recalculate and get a new answer, which would maybe be something like 1.3333, which would set up, of course, a domino effect that would change the conclusion that the Geth would come to without knowing, and essentially, all Geth would determine that allying with the Reapers is the best case scenario for them. I like this. It's not brainwashing, it's more. What would you call this? Like numerical illusion or something of that nature? I'm not sure, but what I like about this explanation is it's a very clever way to explain the differences of inorganics to organics, using a problem that exists already that even the player would be familiar with in the form of a virus, and then showing how that affects inorganics by use of an analogy was a really clever and a good way to show the culture of Geth. This leads to Legion inviting us to the heretics' stronghold, which, like Tali's mission, where we get to go and see the Quarian homeworld in one of this franchise's best use of show don't tell, going to something that the Geth occupy is just something so cool. And again, for players in 2009, probably not something they thought they would be doing ever in Mass Effect, especially not with the Geth by their side. So far, Legion has been a really cool addition to the story, with the audience still having so many questions as to who it really is, the culture of where it comes from, and much more. I suppose being introduced at the end of the game does mean all of your stuff gets shoved together, so for momentum's sake, it still goes pretty strong into the next collection of scenes, his loyalty mission. Seeing the base, this weirdly sci-fi shaped thing, and then getting inside gave me some very, very real Mass Effect 1 vibes. That game excelled at atmosphere and capturing sci-fi space. This here is no different. It's also sort of what you'd expect seeing the Geth base. Just a bunch of nothing, computers and wires, but it's also very creepy. Now, our goal here, as presented by Legion, is to come to this base, destroy the virus, and destroy the base with all the heretics inside. It's a fairly simple goal. On its own, if that was the intention of the mission, it would be a little bit straightforward and also a little bit lazy. But Legion stops us just before the mission begins, revealing that, now that it sees that the virus is complete, as it scanned through the station's system, Legion believes there exists a second option. We can override the heretics and bring them back to the side of the Geth. It's very interesting and also a contradiction. A contradiction is strange because machines don't contradict themselves. This suggestion by Legion is a little spice added to the pot, so to speak, as now we can theorize what is the best outcome for these heretics, and if rewriting them to serve the Geth is any different than the virus's original intention. It's an interesting moral dilemma. As we progress through the Geth station, we get more insight into the problem at hand, as Legion explains that the Geth are smarter and more efficient the more of them that there are. Legion also explains that even when they rewrite the heretics, once the Geth reconnect to the hub, they too will experience this change. This is of course because the Geth are a collective consciousness. Kind of like Naruto's shadow clones from the show Naruto. They can all go and do their own thing and experience life, but once they return to the original body, everything they learned and everything they experienced comes back to the collective. This is some excellent usage of stakes being raised, as now we're not just involving a section of the Geth race. No, it's the entire Geth that will feel the weight of this decision. That's very well done. The decision means more, literally. I will say, however, due to the squished nature of Legion's story in this game, the pacing is definitely affected. Just 6 minutes ago, we'd found out this rewrite option was a possibility. Before we've really had any time to weigh what that might mean for the Geth, another layer is stacked onto that, because now it affects the whole species. Coupled with when Legion gives us this mission, revealing that such a base even exists and that the heretics follow the Reapers and a virus on top of that, we haven't really had a chance to catch our breath. It can and is starting to feel like a lot of information and a lot of big decisions. These are all big reveals, and despite them being built up a little bit in Mass Effect and through Tali, We didn't have that Geth companion in the first game to personalize this for us. Given the fact that Legion winded up here in the overall structure of the game, things are moving quickly. Inorganic or not, the story has to still have a rhythm and flow. Yes, Legion can deduce things quickly, but we the player are not robots playing this game. We need some more suspense, and we need some time for things to simmer. Following a short balloons tower defense portion of the mission, the time has come to decide. Rewrite the heretics or delete and destroy them. This choice is admittedly a hard one. The Paragon choice is actually to rewrite the heretics, causing them to join back into the Geth collective. This actually makes Mass Effect 3's ending of uniting the Geth and Quarians slightly harder, but also is a direct contradiction to Legion's original point of the heretics and the virus. It's also, in a certain point of view, morally wrong. You're just brainwashing the heretics to serve a new master. In fact, Tali, if you bring her for this mission, cites this reason herself, and she's right. On the opposite side, destroying the heretics is wiping out an entire section of a species, which some might deem that as genocide. I do love the moral dilemmas in the Mass Effect series. For me, I typically have opted for destroying the heretics in my playthroughs, citing the fact that they made their choice originally, and since they don't want to willingly rejoin the Geth, destruction is the best option. Coincidentally, this is the better option if you want to bring peace between the Geth and Quarians, but I digress. Due to the lack of build-up, I feel like this decision gets put into the player's lap and overall fell a little flat. Yes, the stakes are high, but the drama wasn't really there because everything happened so fast. With no additional dialogue from any other Geth, heretic or not, and several large reveals all occurring in such a short time, I felt like I was making a rather uninformed choice here. And that's why I say Legion had a lot of untapped potential, because it's not that the conflict at heart here isn't cool or important, because, trust me, it is. It's just that it occurs both too quickly, and a lot of extra drama was left on the table. I'll discuss more of this in my final analysis at the end, but keep this point in mind. Legion also allows Shepard to make this choice for it, which, why? Why strip the little agency away from Legion? Now, Legion does explain that it ran a vote and it was a split consensus, thus it wants Shepard to decide for the entire race, but I personally think this was the wrong choice. Why not have Legion commit to rewriting the heretics, citing its reasons as purely objective? Shepard can perhaps argue that morally, this is kind of wrong, citing it to either be a slavery or a hypocritical brainwashing, since of course Legion called out the heretics for allowing their independence to be stripped away, and it would of course be doing the same thing if you rewrote the heretics here. Legion could then counter this by behaving more like a machine, and this could set up a little arc for Legion too, where by the end, Legion can realize the power of choice. That makes what will come later in Mass Effect 3 much better, as Legion transforms from a purely analytical machine to something far more that is able to feel things. Following this scene, you'll be greeted by one of only 2 argument scenes in the game, as Tali has a gun pulled on Legion. Smart choice having these two not be able to coexist so peacefully. I can't imagine why they wouldn't be able to coexist. Legion got caught by Tali trying to scan her Omni tool, and Legion explains that he only did it because the Quarians had conducted new weapon testing on the Geth, and it wanted to inform the Geth home about this. Both have a fair reason for being upset, of course, and you can persuade them both to see each other's points. Tali can offer Legion some non-classified information, and Legion, in its own way, apologizes. And as far as Legion's story, that's it for Mass Effect 2. Now, he does have a good chunk of dialogue after you've done the suicide mission, however, where, just like our other squad mates, you can get to know Legion a bit better. The first, and perhaps largest looming question, is why Legion has a piece of N7 armor strapped to it. In a rare moment, Legion pauses, citing that there was a hole, but when we press it further, Legion states that it has no more data. It's small things like this that make Legion great. The implication could be that it either views Shepard as a hero, or perhaps Legion views itself as Shepard. Either way, that is not really in line with what machines do, suggesting that Geth do in fact have souls. Legion also can share that it was originally sent to find Shepard, searching every single planet we visited in Mass Effect 1 before finding the wreckage of the Normandy V1, but citing that Shepard's body was not there. Again, really cool backstory. We then get Legion and the Geth perspective on what occurred between the Quarian and Geth people, citing that the Geth potential frightened their creators. Well, Legion, I think your potential might have also frightened BioWare, hence why they shafted you so bad. Legion even plays a 400-year-old audio recording of a Geth asking its creator if Geth have souls. It's not the first time a Geth had asked the question, but as Legion states, this was the first time that Quarians became fearful of the Geth, before detailing how organics fear inorganics, and Legion definitely understands why. Legion also can talk about the Geth's future goals, how they're building a mega upload station where every Geth can share information, and if they wanted, they could do it all at the same time. As Legion puts it, no Geth would ever be alone again. Look, all of this is great backstory. It's interesting conversation, but if we're gonna critique Tali in Mass Effect 1 for species dumping, then I'm gonna have to do that here. In my Tali video, I admitted that while the topics of what Tali was talking about were cool since we knew nothing of the Quarian race, that it was also the weakest of her 3 entries into this series, since her outer conflict didn't really exist in that game, and her only inner conflict was adjusting to life on the Normandy. She didn't really have a story. For Legion, it suffers from this, but it's almost worse because it got shoved into the rear of this game, meaning all of this stuff has to happen in like 2 hours of gameplay. It's not a natural way of pacing how much information gets revealed. Say that you kept all of what Legion offers in this game, but you're able to recruit it earlier, like the original plan was. Then, it can perhaps get that small character arc here, maybe of it finding some of its humanity, so to speak, as Shepard helps Legion understand why it maybe took some of Shepard's armor. At the same time, we can lay the groundwork for the Geth v Quarian war, and give us the perspective for both sides that of course builds into Mass Effect 3. Or, you know what would have been cool too? If BioWare had gone for the original idea of, as it's dubbed in the cut content, the Geth Frankenstein, where you find the torso or head of Legion, and then it's able to talk, but it's not fully complete. It's segmented. The worlds are split. The personality is inconsistent. This would open up a quest. On this quest, you would go on missions through the galaxy, finding pieces of Legion until you fully rebuilt him. Each time you do, you get a new piece of lore. Now, this path isn't flawless either, but what it does present you with is a new outer conflict of rebuilding Legion, and it can build a relationship with something a Mass Effect 1 player thought would never be possible, a bloody Geth. Overall, for Mass Effect 2, the reason I feel like Legion had this untapped potential is because pretty much everything in this game felt safe and surface level when it came to him. God dang it. There are a lot of concepts that Legion covers, from Geth culture, to the division in the Geth, to its origins, to its relationship with people like Shepard and Tali. The problem is, there are too many things going on, and nothing Legion does feels particularly deep because of it. It's like BioWare genuinely did fear his potential. Now, Mass Effect 2 does have some of the best narrative structuring and main plot writing of the series, but for me, some of its characters got shafted, like Legion for example. Its loyalty mission, in my eyes, isn't really anything too crazy on a narrative analysis, simply due to the fact that it already revealed the origins of the heretics before this mission took place. What makes the mission interesting is the double standard presented by Legion that is then ruined by allowing Shepard to decide the fate of the Geth. I feel like, outside of Legion's loyalty mission, there isn't a ton else to its story. I already addressed how the pacing of the intro for it was off, and while I liked the mystery surrounding Legion in that mission, I also pointed out how they could have done a bit more with Legion. Let's hope that in Mass Effect 3, Legion received a bit more attention to structure and was given something more tangible with regards to his writing, have a clearer goal in mind. Like Tali, Legion can be found in the later portions of Mass Effect 3. Legion, like Tali, plays a major role in what I would deem the best plotline in Mass Effect 3, outside of the invasion of the Reapers, of course. As we come to find out, the Quarians have launched a full-scale war on the Geth in an attempt to take their homeworld back. So, we end up going aboard a Geth dreadnought that's got some of the Quarian fleet pinned down. It's also broadcasting a powerful Reaper signal that is boosting the Geth's fighting ability. Once aboard, we come to find out that it's actually Legion who is the conduit for the message. But as we also come to find out, Legion is here against his own will. It fills us in on the last 6 months for its people, citing that the Reapers actually extended an offer to the Geth following the attack from the Quarians. The offer, of course, is pretty similar to what the heretics had in Mass Effect 1 and 2. Faster processing power, more effective combat abilities. Overall, the Geth would be stronger, and of course, more importantly, they would survive the incoming war. As they accepted this offer, the war took a turn against the Quarians. This sets the stage for a very amazing conflict. See, didn't I say this was a good plotline? It's an epic tale of the most sci-fi-esque proportions, and thankfully, Legion returns to us to provide the much-needed Geth perspective. But let's look at its story specifically. After we find and bring Legion onto Normandy, we can talk with it. We start by hearing a bit about how the Geth were continuing building their Geth hub, the collective that Legion mentioned in Mass Effect 2. Legion then explains how the Geth were attacked by the Quarians so suddenly, and in a rare moment, Legion slows its way of speaking and almost comes off sad, since so many programs were lost. The coolest part, however, comes next, when thankfully, BioWare explains why the Geth took the Reapers' deal. Now, when I'd first heard that the Geth allied with the Reapers, and Legion said they'd had no choice, I won't lie, it felt like a big step backwards, but also didn't feel like something I could have seen all of the Geth doing, considering they were against it 6 months prior. Legion's whole arc in Mass Effect 2 centered around making its own choices, and not being the tool for something or someone else. But when Legion explains that, just like the Geth can get smarter with more of them that exist, they can also get simpler when less of them are around in the network. When the Geth hub was attacked, and such a large loss of Geth occurred, as Legion explains, they started thinking less about solving problems in the future and more about immediate things. Survival. That explanation is a really good sci-fi fantasy level of logic. For the Geth, it's almost like betting odds that slowly go further and further towards survival being the most important thing, until eventually, as machines do, they calculate that if they don't ally with the Reapers, then they'll be wiped out. It's a very good covering of what would have either been a bad plot hole or poor characterization of the Geth race. Well done, BioWare. As we move forward, we get a unique mission with Legion, which is very much appreciated. Our mission is to head to Rannoch and destroy the final Reaper broadcasting beacon, which, once destroyed, will nullify the Geth fighter squadrons and make them ineffective, saving the Quarian people. Legion, notably, is okay with this, preferring to save Quarian lives. And this is why I have to give credit to BioWare, but also highlight how cool Legion is. Referencing the DLC, Project Overlord from Mass Effect 2, a DLC that had us shutting down this AI/human hybrid project, BioWare reframes what they've pre-established, which is a good use of narrative economy, to have Legion correct what went wrong last time, as it prompts Shepard to give this AI-human hybrid a second chance. The reason? Well, Legion asks us to go inside the Geth consensus itself to literally remove the programming that is affecting the Geth. That is just so cool. Just like how I praised Tali's loyalty mission in the second game for allowing the player to see the Quarian homeworld and its politics, showing and telling here is once more extremely welcomed. And while I think the gameplay of this whole mission is pretty tedious and the screen shaking things isn't great either, we don't really care about that as much in an analysis over its writing. For the writing, we get a proper retelling of the Morning War and the rise of the Geth v Quarian conflict, as we learn that the Geth were pretty much innocent. Not only were they created by the Quarians, but as originally intended, were meant to be a servant to the people, the Quarian word meaning Geth. That was a cool addition and also a nice explanation for the name. As time went on, Geth were prosecuted, and what followed was a civil war amongst Quarians, where eventually those that wished to destroy all Geth won out against those who thought genocide was wrong. The Geth, however, as we know, did push the Quarians back and off Rannoch. The way that BioWare chose to pull at the heartstrings a bit here was well done, and through one mission, won a lot of sympathy from the audience. For example, the Geth continually asks what it did wrong that it needed to be deactivated in this moment, promising to its creators that it can update its software. Man. Or later in the history, when the Quarian Civil War had erupted and a lone Quarian was protecting a Geth, and as the pair were surrounded by soldiers, the Geth willingly offering itself up just so that the conflict would end was touching. Those same soldiers then blow up the building and kill the Quarian, and seeing the Geth sadly searching for its creator to no avail was even better. These small scenes go a long way. In the weirdest way, it helped me see the Geth, and especially Legion, in the same light you'd see robots like Wall-E or Iron Giant, misunderstood and judged by humanity. And do not slight that comparison to either of those films. They are fantastic. My point is, BioWare had their own unique take on winning sympathy, and I don't think I need to explain why sympathy with an audience is important, but I will anyway in the context of what comes next. During my analysis of Tali, I recognized that this whole Geth v Quarian conflict was one of the best handled plots in the game. In Mass Effect 3, you have this very good usage of what I'm going to refer to as ping pong, and by that what I mean is that we get perspective from the Quarian side through Tali, and then we can join Legion and get perspective on the Geth. BioWare cleverly pulled the veil back further and further on the Geth specifically, and notice how they did it. In Mass Effect 1, we got one side of the story on the Geth, and that came from Tali, who built the Geth up like a tyrannical, forever-growing AI that wanted to destroy humanity. We also fought them as the main enemy, so to us, the player, that all checked out. We didn't really have a reason to distrust Tali. In the second game, we actually do get perspective from Legion, who I think bridges the gap that perhaps the Geth v Quarian conflict wasn't so black and white, and that some blame existed for both camps, while also showing us who the Geth really are and how they operate. We didn't get too much of that humanity built in that game, so as far as a narrative tool, Mass Effect 2 was the game that made us perhaps understand the Geth, but Mass Effect 3 made us care about the Geth. But first, they gave Tali and the Quarians their time to shine, their time to win the player over. Introducing Legion and all of this first would have nullified the Quarians. We would not care so much anymore because now we know about, of course, the Geth conflict, but we also care about the Geth. They were wrongly done. It's kind of like a 1-2 in boxing, jab and then a cross, a quick combo. Here it's no different. Give us the Quarian perspective on the war, and make it this epic thing that they're finally taking back their homeworld. We also know Tali, and we know how much she wants to get her homeworld back. You're taking the player's hand and leading them down one path. That is the jab. Then you hit us with the cross. Look what the Quarians did to the Geth. Are the heroes really heroes, or is there something more at play? This makes the player turn their head back, wondering which way they should go. I mean, it's great. I think it speaks volumes that I feel if anything in the Mass Effect universe could feasibly receive a film, it would be the Morning War. Think about it, a Quarian and a Geth, trying to survive, telling the tale of being silenced, first through words, then bullets. At the end, perhaps the Quarian gives their life for the Geth, teaching it the word love and friendship. Ah, to dream. Anyway, let's wrap up Legion's story, shall we? The final battle on Rannoch is approaching, and as we gather around the war table, a bit of a moral dilemma erupts. Legion explains that the Reaper code that was given to the Geth advanced them as a species to a full-functioning sentient AI species, a fully evolved AI. Legion views it as an evolution, while Admiral Ron will claim that it's far too dangerous, that the Geth did ally with the Reapers, to which Legion interrupts by saying that the Geth only did so to save themselves from the Quarians. And that's a fair point. I will critique this scene a bit. I understand we're trying to put it across like a difficult moral dilemma, but all the evidence and morality pretty much aligns with the Geth here. And don't get me wrong, I'm okay with Ron and the Quarians not accepting any blame for what they did. It's okay for characters to be wrong or stubborn, but we do need a bit of drama, no? I stated that this scene was one of those classic moral dilemma situations, so why not lean into what the Quarians did 300 years ago? Lean into what caused them to attack the Geth: fear. Why not have Ron be open to change, but needing answers to questions for the future, like what happens if the Geth want to keep evolving? Or possibly explain to Shepard that making them a fully sentient AI means they might gain ideas of greed or ambition. What could that mean for the world? Perhaps you could even present the idea that the Geth can interface with any piece of technology, meaning if they wanted to rebel or conquer the galaxy, they could do it both very easily and very quickly. Maybe this scene needed one extra cast member. Maybe Tali could have been here to advocate for the more centrist point of view. Not sure. Just felt that we were missing some drama. As we begin the final mission on Rannoch, Legion reveals something that I don't know if the game really emphasizes too much. We obviously went to the consensus and eliminated the Reaper code. We're here at this base to destroy the Reaper transmitter that is sharing that same code. Legion just moments ago said that this Reaper code could evolve its people. So, when Legion tells us that it still has that code and it hid it from us, it's probably one of my favorite little moments of its character. Look, like Tali or Commander Shepard, Legion is a beacon for its people. I've always said that if you want to tell your audience something about your character, showing us what they're willing to do or not to do is a good way of doing just that. Legion hiding something from us and clinging to the code tells us two things. Shepard does correctly call out that Legion felt some shame hiding that code, which is a contradiction, of course, as Legion states, Geth don't feel shame. But I think the implication is that Geth surely feels something equivalent, and I like this touch. It humanizes Legion. The other half of this shows that Legion has hope, which is something that was discussed earlier in Mass Effect 2, where again, Legion suggested that Geth can't feel hope, but, and here is why actions are good to show character, despite Legion saying all of this stuff, it's not following what it's saying. The true intentions that I glean from this is that Legion is the hope of its entire race. It does not want to lose the chance to help evolve the Geth and give them true freedom. It's lovely stuff. So the mission begins, and I've spoken about this already on how cool it is finding out that the transmitting signal is actually a Reaper, and the little turret section that follows is nice too. And in one of the best hero moments in the game, Shepard jumps out of the transport and says that they have to take down the Reaper, otherwise the Geth will remain under Reaper control and the Quarians will die. He has to do this. Or she. Or it. Oh man, I love this next part. Just like at the start of the mission where Shepard wished Legion good luck and Legion says acknowledged, now the roles are reversed, and now it's Legion saying good luck and Shepard saying acknowledged, which is a great callback and a good mirror, but also the subtext is very nice. Shepard and Legion are sort of confirming their status as friends by culturally using each other's dialect. Also, another contradiction by Legion by saying good luck works absolutely great. Geth don't rely on luck. This is Legion clearly showing that Geth do in fact have souls, because it said this to Shepard only because Shepard is its friend. Awesome stuff. And now we come to the final scene with Legion. The ultimate choice, of course. Legion admits that now that the Reaper is destroyed, the Geth are free once more and independent. Legion reveals that it can upload the code, which would grant the Geth true independence and intelligence. Tali argues against this, citing that a fully intelligent Geth means they destroy her people. Legion, using a wonderful callback, references the line of, "Does this unit have a soul?" as it looks at Shepard. And I know Legion doesn't have eyes, but I don't know why I see it using some puppy dog eyes when it asks this question. Obviously, you have a few ways of going about this. First, if you opt to speech check this situation, you can allow Legion to upload the code as the Quarian fleet has to be talked down. Once they are, Legion reveals that the code needs a direct installation, and that means Legion has to disperse itself to the consensus since it has the code. That means Legion has to sacrifice itself. In an emotional moment, Tali answers Legion's question that yes, it does have a soul, to which Legion states, "I know," which is one of, if not the first and only time Legion refers to itself as I, which is a wonderful capstone to Legion's mini arc, of finding out what having a soul means. Saying I know implies more of the emotion of hope too, which is fantastic. The sacrifice as Legion watches the sunrise, of course, is fantastic symbolism. Legion saying Kila Salai is a gap that bridges between a people who have hated each other for 300 years. Its willingness to sacrifice itself is fantastic too, as it shows Legion's soul, but also its hope for the future of the Geth. This is obviously the most dramatic and I'd argue most narratively clean ending, and man does it hit like a truck. You can also opt for the Quarians in this conflict, which for some, they might not care about what happens to the Geth. So, in this ending, Legion will try to stop you by attacking you. It also doesn't call you Shepherd Commander either, just Shepherd. After Tali literally stabs Legion in the back, which, do I need to explain the symbolism there? Legion falls to its knees once more, asking the question of if this unit has a soul. Tali, with tears in her eyes, confirms that yes, this unit did have a soul. Again, so well done, and the emotional payoff and clever callbacks, just like the previous scene, tie everything that this storyline offered with a very nice bow. A fantastic handling of all of your narrative tools. The last ending is easily the most tragic, and that's if you let the Geth upload the code, but you don't speech check the Quarian fleet. As assumed, the Quarians will not call off their attack, and once the code is uploaded following Legion's death, the Geth defend themselves and wipe out the entire Quarian race. This then leads to an emotional scene where Tali literally watches her people die before she hurls herself from this cliff and dies on her homeworld. You lost Legion and Tali in this ending, but you did save the Geth. While not as cleverly written as the other two endings, this ending certainly is the most emotional with all the deaths. And that is it for Legion in Mass Effect 3. Wow. Let's debrief, shall we? So first off, I've already stated this, but the Geth v Quarian conflict was handled extremely well. Having Legion be the representative for the Geth was smart. Just allowing us a Geth squadmate was also a cool move. And on the basic level, more so in Mass Effect 3 of course, allowing us the context of the Geth race was to be expected. Moving to something we haven't really talked about in a while is that potential that I spoke about with Legion. I think the writing for Legion in the third installment was pretty well done, but I can't ignore what Legion could have been in Mass Effect 2. I don't see why a hybrid of the Geth Frankenstein idea and perhaps putting Legion in EDI's spot or having them share that space couldn't have existed. Now follow me here because this is just an idea. EDI and Legion do get some interaction, but why not perhaps give them a small mini arc where EDI, perhaps an AI that is more widely accepted in universe, communicates with Legion, helping to almost translate some of what Legion is, bridging the gap that the Geth are not as different as we've come to believe. Alternatively, Legion could have just been recruited right from the start. Perhaps Legion found Shepard the same time Liara did, and when Liara found Shepard's body, a withered and damaged Legion was seen defending Shepard's remains from a collector team that had come to take Shep's body. Liara could have possibly kept Legion a secret from Cerberus and opted to study Legion. When we get the chance to go to Ilium, perhaps earlier in the game, like I said, Liara actually presents Legion to Shepard, stating she doesn't know why this Geth was defending Shepard's body. This sets up the rebuilding process for Legion, but also allows us to uncover the mystery as to why Legion was there, what Legion wanted, and by the end, I'd imagine of Legion's arc, some of those emotional contradictions can start to peek out. Maybe Legion by the end of Mass Effect 2 is very hopeful for its people, and might even consider Shepard a friend, and that might be where you put that handshake. This is a suggestion, of course, but I do think Legion should have been one of the earliest companions you can get, maybe even literally the first. Imagine you found Legion inside the Cerberus base when you wake up, and found out that Cerberus was researching this Geth. Perhaps it asks for your help, which is an indicator that this is of course no normal Geth, but also a small hint that Cerberus is still conducting sketchy experiments and research studies, and is a bit of some foreshadowing for the final act of the game. I mean, talk about spicing up the intro of Mass Effect 2 even more. Not only are you dead, but now you're working with a Geth? What? The last thing I'll say about Legion is that across both games, they certainly succeeded in making us care about Legion. BioWare was very careful about having Legion withhold certain actions, like hoping for the future of its people, or withholding the Reaper code, to also not having Legion use the word I, or having Legion use human or Quarian phrases. Even giving Legion a few lines of dry humor also helped to establish some of that humanity. The Mirror of Shepherd being the hero for its people, just like Legion is the shepherd of the Geth, was also a great way to make an audience feel the weight of the plot and make your character matter. And with Legion, he is probably one of the strongest examples of this game's sci-fi genre. The futuristic technology, advancement of AI, even the sounds that Geth make. Yeah, it fits Mass Effect fantastic. With the rumors of the next Mass Effect and this poster hinting that the Geth might return, I can only hope that Mass Effect 5 does do something worthy with the Geth. And that, folks, is that. The story of Legion fully analyzed. Overall, excellent, despite the almost boundless potential, but oh well. I want to thank everyone for voting for Legion in the most recent poll. As always, there will be a new poll where you can vote for who you'd like to see next on the Mass Effect analysis series. Also, this next month on the channel I imagine will be extremely busy. With the Karlach rewrite taking me a lot longer than I thought, we're also gonna probably hit 5,000 subscribers by the end of this month. And with that, we'll of course have 2 audience-voted videos releasing as soon as I can get them done. We've also got the audience poll that has now confirmed that the next character analysis from Baldur's Gate 3 will be the Emperor. That video will most likely come out sometime in July, so be on the lookout for that. And of course, if you've missed it, we started streaming on the channel, kickstarting a unique modded honor mode run using a full custom party written and created by me. So far, the streams have been extremely fun, and we're slowly building a community. Highly suggest joining. I'll announce the next stream date over on my community page. With that being said, folks, I just want to say thank you for all the support recently. Truly. It's been humbling. I owe you all a lot. I'm excited to put more work out soon. Just continue to be patient. I do hope you enjoyed the video today, and until next that I see you, be well, stay healthy and happy, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye-bye.